Okay, now the book starts out with, of course, the obligatory liar's clause, which says, oh, by the way, you're going to read a lot of things that people are not going to agree actually happened, but it's all in the spirit of how I felt. It's my journey. She literally says, in recounting my journey, I've included scenes and conversations and descriptions of encounters with others that are not intended to be word for word reenactments. I'm just trying to recall those moments in the spirit in which they took place. So, if you don't understand exactly where I got any of this, it's just that I'm basing it off of how I feel that it went and how I feel that it was probably going to go, or how it made me feel in the moment. I'm not so worried about facts, but I am very worried about feelings. And then she wants to let you know, I want to emphasize that I'm not an expert trained in any form of therapy. Yeah, we know. We've seen what you did to Will. I don't think any of us were under any delusion that you were some sort of a exceptional therapist leading us all to glory. And then in the last bit, she wants all of us to know that if you're struggling with your mental health, you should not be alone, and you need to reach out for help at her website. And she gives us, her website. And it's like, look, if I'm looking for resources, I'd probably be better off just Googling it and accepting the first 3 hits, rather than going to Jada Pinkett Smith's website for mental health. I was like, that's probably where your mental health struggle would begin if you decided to go all in on Jada Pinkett Smith's, lovely version of how to do family life and love. All right, let's get started on this prologue, which is named The Heroine's Journey. So she starts this chapter out where she has agreed to go and meet this medicine woman. The medicine woman is going to hopefully pull her up out of this extreme funk she's found herself in. Now, she has reached the point where life is no longer worth living. She believes that she is not giving anything to the world, and she wants to just take herself out. She's been planning this for a while, but then the universe has dropped into her consciousness the knowledge of this woman right there in California who can maybe, with plant medicine, help her realize that, she's not lost at all. She just hasn't got the right tools. So she's right there. She's about to drive down the hill towards this medicine woman. And that's where she starts this prologue. She says, I take a couple of deep breaths, trying to calm myself. I feel crazy. Sometimes feelings don't lie, Jada. My mind, which was so focused on getting here, is now suddenly betraying me, leaving me to feel vulnerable in ways that I hate. In this moment, I'm pounded by the same terrifying feelings I felt in the past experiences when I put myself in situations that it's a miracle I lived to tell. The scariest aspect of these incidents was that whether I lived or died was in someone else's hands. Okay, I just want to say real quick, Jada, that you just said you put yourself in the situations, and now you're saying that they were so scary because it was up to somebody else whether you lived or died in all these situations. But you just said you put yourself there. Why have you made a pattern in your life of doing dangerous things and then wanting to be a victim to the places that you put yourself in? Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm not saying that once you got there, yeah, there were people who wanted to victimize you. But if you knew it was a dangerous situation, why are you consistently finding yourselves in high-risk places? What's the story there? Well, I guess she's going to tell us. She says that she sat there in the driveway for a long time, and she's very, very dramatic about her feelings there. She says that she was praying with all her heart, as sincerely as possible. She was pressing her hands together. She was desperately trying to steady her mind. Don't be afraid, I tell myself. You're in peaceful, beautiful California. Why are you so scared? Because, I answer right back, what if this actually kills me? 3 months earlier, in the wake of my 40th birthday, my biggest worry was, well, what if it doesn't? All right, I know we're supposed to respect everybody's claims that they were just, one step away from ending it all. But I feel like somebody who is this excited by drama, adventure, risk, dragging other people under so she can feel better about herself. I feel like somebody who's this narcissistic probably wouldn't end it all, because their very lifeblood is them. Why would they end them? They're the best thing that ever happened. So it's just like, I really am not saying that she didn't feel low. She probably does. I mean, if you walk through life being this hateful to everybody, you've got to go to bed with you at night. right? You got to lay your head on the pillow and be like, how was I today? How did I treat the people I say that I love? And, she knows the truth to that. So if she felt low down, I'm not denying that. I'm just saying, did she really want to end it all, or did she love the drama of saying that? I'm going to opt with the second. She continues, for 2 decades, I'd been putting on a good face, going with the flow, telling everybody I was okay. Yet underneath, bouts of depression and overwhelming hopelessness and smoldering until they turned into a raging hellfire in my broken heart. Unwelcome feelings of not deserving love made it harder to understand the disconnect between the so-called perfect life I had achieved and the well of loss I carried with me. Therapy helped to a point, got me to 40, but to what end? I just want to pump the brakes real quick on this, description of her overwhelming hopelessness and smoldering sense of not deserving love. I find it odd that if she has really experienced love deprivation and she knows the pain of that, why does she torture her husband with public humiliation and just emotional abuse all day? If for her, she can pinpoint the fact that she feels so desperately alone to the point of, I don't feel like I deserve love, then why would you ever issue that into somebody else's life, publicly humiliating them because they don't deserve to be loved? Will does not deserve to be loved because that's why she keeps publicly humiliating him. If he deserved love, then she'd give it to him, but he has to pay for what he's done. So she needs to make sure the world is coming to him with their hands open, waiting for payment. So this, I'm sorry, lady, I have no pity for you whatsoever that you say, my real problem was that I felt like I wasn't deserving of love. If you know that that's so detrimental, why are you doing that to other people? She says that later she was diagnosed with complex trauma with PTSD and disassociation. But, if she hadn't had that guidepost, she would just be a chronic mess with no fix and no possibility of healing. So now that she knows what's wrong with her, it's not really helping her, Before she was just walking around as a mess, and now she's walking around as a mess with a name on it, but she's really not sure how to get out of it. She says that every morning waking up was like walking the plank of doom. Could I make it to 4 p.m.? If I could, I'd survive the day. Does your day end at 4 p.m.? I feel like my day's just starting at 4 p.m. because, you get up, you go to work, and then, it's time to be off work. But then it's like, okay, now we cook dinner and we do homework and we do all sorts of like family things. Why does the day end for her at 4 p.m.? Does that mean she could start drinking? Do you know what I'm saying? Like what? I don't understand that personal achievement of getting to 4 p.m. What's 4 p.m.? What does that mean? Are you going back to bed at 4 p.m.? Like what? How's the day over then? She says that she always wanted to sleep, but she could never sleep well. And what kept her going was her children. Her children put a smile on her face, and that was her motivation. But she could feel herself losing her connection to them. She was just losing her grip on them. Okay, well, that's twofold. Number one, you're losing your grip on your kids because they can't be your emotional security anymore. So they're looking to avoid you because it's hard. It's hard to be with you because you need too much from them. So when you come in with all of your emotional, unsettled feelings, they're just going to dip out, just going to find something to do in their room. They're going to go be with their friends because you're hard. But then number two, it's not okay that their job in life, according to you, is that they make you feel better. Because whether you've officially ascribed their job in life as you have to make mama feel better, they know that. They know that you're emotionally dependent on them. And nobody can do that. No human being can be everything to anybody else. And it's like if you value the relationship you have with other people, don't make them carry the burden of your emotional well-being. You will kill that relationship if you really care about it. Well, she goes on to say that one of her other problems was that she just had been going through life checking off boxes meant to define being enough to deserve having it all. What that meant to me was that I would be enough to be loved in a way that life didn't hurt anymore. Those boxes I'd been checking had not delivered the gifts that had been promised. I followed the rules. The rules we're told to follow. You work hard. You make sacrifices for those you love. The rules tell you, be a doting mother and a doting wife. Do the work required and life turns into paradise. Nope. A loving relationship, harmony, peace, That happiness had yet to be delivered. But Jada, what are you talking about? How is it that you are saying you followed the rules? You are a doting mother, a doting wife. No, you weren't. You didn't follow the rules. That's probably why it hasn't delivered yet. A doting wife? By whose definition have you been a doting wife? What does doting mean to you? Shame? Public humiliation? Deriding someone? Making them feel less than nothing? Because friend, if you think you followed the rules, I think maybe you got a faulty playbook. She says, on paper, it all looks grand. I had the beautiful family, the superstar husband, the lavish lifestyle, fame, fortune. I had my own career, the freedom and support to pursue creative outlets. The sweetest part was my children, Jaden, Willow, and my bonus son, Trey, my 3 favorite people in the world. They were hands down the best thing that ever happened to me. Yet none of that prevented me from hitting the wall I was speeding towards at 100 miles an hour, knowing full well this shit's gonna blow. Well, Jada, how is it that you are so profoundly surprised that life isn't going well for you? How is it that you are speeding towards a wall at 100 miles an hour? Because I think this is the thing that really bothers me. She's coming out right now writing this book that, everything was terrible and everything was horrible and I couldn't figure out how to get a handle on life and, I just was trying to get to 4 p.m. every day. This is news to us. I mean, it isn't news in the sense that, we all looked at the way she was carrying on life and being like, what is going on over there? But she would have had us believe that she had this beautiful family, that everything was lovely, that, you should really look into her life philosophies and you should really consider, trying to bring yourself up to her mental and emotional elevation, because if you would try that, you too could have the great husband and the great family. You could be the sort of person that could sit around the red table and have these open conversations, but for a little effort on your part, you could have what she had, and all of us looked at what was going on there and we all were like, whoa, you guys need to maybe chill out on some of these open conversations. These seems a little bit destructive. But she had led herself to believe, or she wanted us all to believe, that she was living in an elevated mental mindset. Okay, so I'm feeling annoyed with her because I think, okay, but in reality, you knew you were a mess. We saw that you were a mess too, but why were you trying so hard to convince us that we should get on the crazy train with you? You're describing the fact that you knew you were a mess. Yeah. So now I feel like, why should I jump on the train with you now, Jada? Because you've just told us, I was lying for years. I was making it look like everything was great, but really it was terrible. But now I'm going to tell you it was terrible, but now I actually, I have the answers now. So listen to me now. Now I know. Now I've got the recipe for success. Well, why would we believe you now? She lets us know that she'd sought help everywhere that you can imagine. From goddess gatherings, what is that? To silent yoga retreats, backpacking alone, studying every religion she could think of. You name it, she says. I even went to Cuba and met with a padrino. That was intense. None of it offered a lasting solution. Okay, but probably because you consider goddess gatherings a legit idea for helping yourself not want to end it all. I'm pretty sure the goddess gatherings aren't going to be super helpful. I think the thing too that is surprising to me is that she calls herself a spiritual seeker in this prologue. But are you really? Because you're racing super quickly through all these things. And it would seem to me that indicates you actually don't want it to work. Because if it works and you actually become a whole person, what do you have now? A healthy whole person. That's not exciting. Where will you pin your identity now if you aren't the tortured and angsty spiritual seeker? I just feel like she's going from thing to thing to thing. Now, I'm looking at this list of things and I'm like, okay, backpacking alone and goddess gatherings probably aren't going to pull you up from this deep depression. But are you even giving it a long enough go that you would know for sure this isn't going to work? And that's what bothers me about these spiritual seekers. I feel like there's a difference, I think, between somebody who is a spiritual seeker and somebody who's dabbling in spiritualism. That's somebody who wants to keep trying the trendy thing, but they aren't really willing to find out, how do I fix what's happening with me? And if you look really hard, you can find out what's going on. right? But this foolishness of jumping from silent yoga retreats to the goddess gatherings to the backpacking alone to the running off to Cuba to meet with a padrino, which I don't even know what that is. It's like, of course it didn't have any lasting success. Then she wants to tell us that it's not going well with her and Will. Yeah, tell us something we don't know. Will and I weren't in a good place. We hadn't been for a while. I couldn't make it right no matter how hard I tried. We couldn't hear or see each other at all. Confiding in my close friends seemed unfair to them and to Will. And to me. So then I just decided to tell the whole world. That is the most stupid, boneheaded statement I've ever read. Yo, listen to this. Confiding in my close friends seemed unfair to them and to Will and me. So what was your solution then? Well, then my solution was to get a red table and plop him down and then degrade him. That seemed better than telling my close friends or, having a quiet conversation with a counselor behind closed doors. Why would I do that? Why would I do that when I could get the whole world against Will? And why would I do that when I could prop up myself and, laud and praise my own decisions, on my heroine's journey? Tell a couple of close friends, that wouldn't be fair to Will. What's fair for Will is if I publicly humiliate him. That's going to cause change for him. That's what's going to finally get him to quit bugging me about the fact that I, had a dalliance with somebody that was years and years and years my junior. If I could just publicly humiliate him enough, he'd quit ragging me about it. Well, she goes on to describe some more of her despair. She says that by Thanksgiving, she'd really fallen into despair. She wanted to not be on this earth, and there was no point in living. She says that these thoughts were not completely new to her, but what was new was that now she was playing on how she could do it and make it look like it's a big accident. She says, for the sake of the kids, I wanted to fall off a cliff. And then people would think that it was just a big accident, and no one would be any the wiser. Well, I'm pretty sure people know where you're at. I think that as you stagger through the day just trying to get to 4 p.m., raging out on everybody, being cruel, unkind, and miserable, it's probably a pretty good indicator that things weren't 100% okay with you. And you suddenly going off the cliff in your car, no one would have believed that was, not on purpose. She says that she wanted to do this for the sake of her kids. And she just kept telling herself, if I remained the way I was, what good would I be to them anyway? And besides, I told myself, they'd be okay. They'd have their father, a devoted great dad. Their being okay, in my mind, depended on me doing a really good job of making my death appear to be conclusively accidental. Really? Okay. I mean, what in the world? I know that when you're not in a good frame of mind, you can make excuses for behavior that no one would believe. Like nobody who is healthy and mentally and emotionally whole would ever say, oh, well, taking yourself out will make everybody happier. No, that'll make everybody feel way worse than they already feel right now, And I also think if you're so worried about your kids finding out that you were in such a place, why are you telling us about it now? Because now, if anything were to ever happen to her now by accident, she's lost that play. I guess she feels like she's so far on the other side of this, now that she's found plant medicine, that it doesn't really matter if she, lets the world know that this is where she was and this is where she was planning. But if anything ever happens to her, the whole family's going to be like, oh, well, now we know what it was, And it's just so much drama to be like, okay, let me tell you. I was having thoughts and, because I'm such a giving and caring person, I wasn't just going to take myself out without considering everybody else. No, of course I was going to take myself out and make sure it was an accident so that they wouldn't think I'd actually taken myself out. And the reason that is because I am so concerned about everybody else. I'm a giver. I give. People pleaser probably would be the best way to describe me. I just need to make sure everyone's okay before I ever even consider myself. Yes, of course, taking myself out would mean that their world changes, but really for the better because I didn't have much to give them anyway. We couldn't carry on like this. And I just want us to all sit up for a moment. I just want us to sit for a moment and just think about, that even in my despair, I was so willing to consider their needs. Even as I was on the brink, I was still thinking about other people because that's who I am. That's who I am. She says, as grim as it may sound, the world had become less heavy now that she had a solution and a plan for her own exit. And so she was really resolved. The problem was that she was scared that she'd drive off of a cliff and then not actually die. And then she would just be, in her words, disfigured and paralyzed. And of course, that would be a worse nightmare for everybody. Worse than losing her would be to have a paralyzed mom. Who wants that? Yuck.